Monica Cost Show. New levels, no labels. The Monica Cost Show.
Hello and welcome to the premiere of the Monica Cost Show. New levels, no labels. I'm your host, Monica Cost. I'm excited to have you join me as we climb to new levels of human connectedness through the dismantling of societal labels that keep us unfulfilled by life itself, stuck in unhealthy relationships or jobs that lack purpose, financial turmoil, spiritual facades, and other disabling rituals. Through conversations with familiar faces, we'll explore the effects of labels, the consequences of conforming, and the liberation of living true. By the end of each segment, it is my prayer that you will begin or continue on your authentic journey to a place of unfiltered personal truth. In other words, you should turn the channel if you want to know who the baby daddy is or which celebrity picked up a new DUI. You definitely don't want to watch if you're looking for sensational celebrity gossip or a glossy and perfect picture of celebrity lifestyle or reality show. We won't be glorifying the rich and famous or dishing the dirt on those who are experiencing challenging times. What you will get is thought-provoking conversation with a purpose. And that is to have notable personalities share their journey in a way that gives others the courage to abandon labels, start living into their own values, and to join this authentic living movement. We are, in fact, Authentic TV. Today, I am delighted to have vocalist and songwriter Kenny Lattimore with us for our first authentic conversation on the Monica Cost Show, New Levels, No Labels. Mr. Kenny Lattimore.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yes.
So, how was your trip in?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
It was a long trip, and it had nothing to do with just getting here. It was my day. It seemed like it was continual, but that is what an artist's life is like. You start out early in the morning, and you keep going on and on and on through the course of the day, and sometimes you have to catch a red-eye flight and get up the next morning, and keeping up with the pace of promoting and taking advantage of different opportunities. That's what it's like. Well,
I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
And I've enjoyed our prior conversation,
yes,
so I'm
absolutely.
excited to have this one.
Absolutely.
And just to set the scene a little bit, you know, I'd love to talk about authentic living.
Yes.
And in that, I talk a lot about values. And one thing that I often say is that when we're younger, our parents and adults give us the values that we have, right? They tell us to say thank you or what's bad and what's good. And we grow up thinking these things, but then there's no formal way to check in to see if we value what they say we should have valued. True. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what you think your values are and how I tell people to find their values. Is sort of your values are usually right on the other side of something that makes you really angry, right? Consideration. Yes. So when people don't consider me, I remember I used to get so fed up if people cut me off in traffic, or like if I held the door for somebody and they didn't say thank you, I turn around and say, you're welcome.
Right.
Right. But over time, I learned that the reason why that is such a big thing for me is because consideration, they were bumping up against a value. So if you had to think of things that sort of upset you or make you, get on a soapbox, what kinds of things?
I think that dishonesty is one of those things.
Okay.
And it's so funny because we live in a society where we are in this reality show society where people want things transparent. They want to know everything about you and almost feel entitled to know everything about you. And at the same time, there is the definite need to protect yourself, your family, your reputation, things that are in high value as well.
Sure.
So it's interesting being in entertainment because you have to make decisions about how you want to spin your life to the world. One thing that my mother was a counselor and she was an educator. And she really, I think, taught my sister and myself to be free, be honest with ourselves, and be who we were.
Sure.
So stepping into entertainment, there were things immediately that shifted with me. People wanted to change my age, and they wanted to change, you know, what my messages were going to be and what I was going to be about. I started out heavily in gospel music when I really became a professional singer and wanted to be like BB and CeCe Winans. But someone had a great thought that was very flattering, that I looked like the ladies would like me. And I said, oh, okay. And they thought I should be a sex symbol. And I said, oh, okay. But it was not anything that I ever aspired towards.
Sure.
So I never really sold sex in my music. But that borderline, the honesty of, you know, okay, what is your music going to be about?
Right.
And it always, staying true to myself was about forgiveness. It was about sacrifice. It was about values that were greater than just the sex. Sex is fine too, but the dishonesty thing again had to. All of those things play into an artist when you begin to build a brand.
Sure.
You know, when I look at an artist like a Nicki Minaj, or if you have to make a decision whether you're going to be kind of over the top performer,
Sure.
or are you going to just give people authentically who you are in every song and your performance, because it's a business that we can just have fun and do other, you know, things, no holds bar.
Absolutely. And you know, how have you handled those challenges in the entertainment industry, you know, and have you, you know, made any sacrifices in terms of, you know, maybe not having something because you decided to be your authentic self?
Sure. I think that I could have had more record sales had I taken the route of being more like R. Kelly, who was the most popular at the time that I started. But I think for me, I just wanted to know that I could sleep at night.
That's right.
And that my grandmother would be proud of me, and the people that really knew me, they would listen to me like, that's not Kenny right there, you know. I didn't want that to happen. I really just wanted to, you know, people go into businesses and I want to be successful.
Right.
I want people to know my name and recognize my music, and sometimes the idea starts there, and so much to it. But I think my sacrifice was that, and some ridicule. I mean, I did get some ridicule from it, even from the producers that were making the music with me. Sometimes laughed at me because they were like, "You sure you don't want to just do this? You don't want to?" And it was tough.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Well, I applaud you. I mean, you are one of the people that I met, you know, when you were doing the play, as a matter of fact. Yeah. And you just have been consistent in my book, which is hard to find, I have to say, in the entertainment industry. I mean, I've watched people on set, and then I see how they treat people backstage, and I say, it's not the same person. But, you know, and I am an observer. And so I've watched you, you know, just in the way you treat people. So that is awesome. And then you look at like a Lattimore, who, you know, I hope to have her on the show one day too, because she talks very often about how people come right out and say, you know, you aren't going to be successful because of your complexion or because, you know, just all these really mean things. But she's gotten to a place where her light just sort of, you know, just comes
and she has
right
had the type of success that really is completely the opposite of what everyone has said, which is a beautiful thing. I mean, and I'm trying to be careful with the words I use because it's about her story, because some people would take it and it would be revenge to them.
Sure, that's
but
right.
she has taken it in a much more positive manner. And it's part of her story.
Yeah, which is probably why has had the success that she's had, because she decided to stay, you know,
true
authentic to who she is. Yeah. So I know you and I have talked in the past about your relationship with your mom and how close how close you were to her. And what sort of life lessons did she teach you that you're sort of holding true to today?
Well, the one that probably sticks with me the most is the biblical quote, "To whom much given, much will be required of him." That was something that I lived tremendously through this, making the choices that I did musically, and not just falling into what the commercial environment wanted to push me towards. I also was told to lift up a standard wherever I went. My mother told me this along with a pastor, that you need to lift a standard, and whatever that standard is, just make sure you continue to build upon it. It was almost like she was teaching me branding before I really knew what that was. Before it was in. Yeah.
Right.
And that helped too, because the messages that I wanted to give to the world, I wanted to also be able to go back to the gospel and things like that, and authentically sing the gospel, and not have people looking at me like, well, wait a minute, sir, you just sang this other song and it doesn't match.
That's right.
I wanted to make sure that things were consistent in my life. But my mother was an educator, and she was a counselor. She worked at Lincoln University in near Philadelphia, and she also worked at Howard University, our alma mater. And she was an amazing person who made me think about why people were who they were. So I love your show.
Thank you.
Because that's what it makes me think about the quality of life and the quality of people, because it's not always what we think we see.
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I want to, and that's what I want to talk a little bit more about, because I want people to get to know you. It's so interesting to me when I meet people personally, and I've had offline conversations with them, and then you sometimes read what's on the internet, and you go, no, how'd you get that? That is just only completely not true.
Yeah.
So what are some of the misconceptions about Kenny Lattimore?
Wow. One is my reputation is he is so nice, and I do hear that all the time. Where I believe it now. I go, okay, yeah, I'm a nice guy.
Right.
But I think that also makes people think that there's no other edge to me, or that if I'm positioned in a conflict, that I'm just going to lay down and
Sure.
and what did they say, meekness is weakness, or that I'm going to be weak in the situation, and that is not me at all. As a matter of fact, because I'm calm and I'm very diplomatic, I'm usually called in for the hard job, like the male Olivia Pope. I've been that kind of,
okay, so to give the hard, tough message because of how you deliver it.
Because how I deliver it, because I'm going to deliver it with some gentleness.
Sure.
But I'm going to tell you the truth.
That's right. That's right.
And because my heart is really for the person and for people in general, I'm going to look for something great in you.
Yep.
So that you leave inspired, and that's the way my mother was.
Sure.
Misconceptions. That probably is the biggest thing, because I hear that consistently. Yep, he's really nice, and again, it's a compliment to me.
Yeah.
Definitely, that probably is the whole thought of a weakness being associated with kindness, I think, is
Sure.
the greatest.
Yeah. So I, and I've told you this too, I went through a divorce before, and we talked about it. While, both of us are in good shape now,
Yes.
it's just not an easy thing, right, to
yeah.
get on the other side and emotionally, because something's dying.
True.
Right?
That is so true.
And so you have to find a way to grieve that.
Yeah. I didn't realize that divorce would be that at all.
Sure.
I thought that, because it doesn't happen right away either. I think that people assume that when they hear about it is when things are current and happening, when the death of it begins very slowly, years before, and you just see it dying, and then by the time the world hears about it, depending on how you share your information,
Sure.
It's really super over. But because it was a death, the pain of it lasts quite a long time.
Sure.
I lost my mother to cancer. And one of the things that I used to tell people is that you have to grieve.
Right.
And don't pretend that you don't have the pain, and don't pretend that this is not a big deal. It's not a big deal. I can get over this, because it lingers on longer and longer when you're not honest with yourself.
That's true. Yeah. So do you think you'd ever get married again?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So you believe in the
Absolutely.
institution of marriage?
I believe in the institution of marriage. I believe that it keeps us accountable. It keeps us accountable to love and responsible love.
Sure.
A lot of people feel like, oh, it traps you, and this piece of paper is locking you. And no, you have the option of doing whatever you want. And when you are, legally binding yourself, what you're saying is, hey, I'm going to put this out here, and I'm going to let this other person know.
Yeah.
that I'm accountable to you, I'm committed to you. It's not going to make me perfect. It's not going to make me flawless or not make a mistake. But I'm hoping that with this, we're on the same page in terms of understanding about what our relationship is.
Yeah. And last question before we play the label on the table.
Sure.
What do you think, the divorce rate is still hovering around 50% in this country. And, I know everybody's different and we can't put these broad rules around what happens, but just sort of from your own situation, what do you think goes awry either before the relationship begins or sometime in the middle?
For some, it is definitely before. I think our decision making is off a little. We don't always go through the complete process of getting to know someone.
Sure.
But we also, I think, enter in relationships with selfish motive, and we think that, this marriage is going to be so great and it's going to fulfill all these things for me, as opposed to the sacrifice that it really is.
Yeah.
When I think of marriage, I think of it as the religious ceremony of it. No matter what religion you come from, I'm a Christian, but I think about the vows and Christ loving the church. And what did he do for the church? He died for the church. He died for his bride. And we don't think about, oh my God, what kind of sacrifice must that have been? And his bride didn't always love him back.
Right.
And it's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But marriage is like that, where when you fall into the tough times, you have to kind of step back and take your emotions out of it and think about the other person first. Oh my gosh, what are you feeling? Oh, that's what you're feeling. Okay, how can I make this situation better? In addition to that, I'm not here to make you happy necessarily. I'm hoping that people are bringing wholeness to their relationships, because that's another thing where we get into relationships trying to fix ourselves. So-and-so's going to do it. When I meet the right person, my whole life is going to come together.
Right.
And no, but we've got to bring that wholeness and that happiness to the relationship ourselves, and then we help another person in their wholeness and their happiness.
Yeah, I agree. Jada Pinkett wrote a really good post. I feel like it was on Facebook or something, but there she talked about, are you with somebody for function?
Wow.
So if they are providing stability, or if they're providing, wantedness or connectedness, when they go through something and they can no longer provide the function for you, do you still want them?
Wow.
It was so powerful, and it just it brought me right back to the values conversation, because really at the end of the day, it's kind of where we can only walk together if our process is similar.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that's true.
And people like to say opposites attract and things like that, but eventually that thing that's the opposite starts to get on your nerves.
Right.
Right?
I
Because
talk
the
about
alignment.
being committed to the same commitment.
Yes.
Is so true. Because, okay, if you are opposite, but you're committed to the same commitment, when the changes and of life occur, which they are going to occur, and we have to accept that, our approach and what we're dedicated to has to be the same.
Yes.
Some people are looking at, and it comes back to the marriage vows. What are you really vowing? For better or worse, is that real?
Yeah.
Because then when you're caught there with the worst, some people are like, actually, that was a soft commitment for me. That was a
That's
soft
right.
answer,
That's
as opposed to being like, no, I was all into each one of these vows.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing to find out later, too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do find out later, because some people say the right things and they're not authentic going in, they're not honest, and it throws everything off.
Yeah.
When you build any foundation on a lie,
Yeah, it's the
it's tough
truth.
to work.
And which speaks to your campaign of being one.
Being one.
Speaking to the hearts of women and the minds of men,
Absolutely.
which I just adore. And
Thank
I'm
you,
looking
thank
forward
you.
to seeing more and more from that.
Absolutely.
So before we run out of time, this game is called The Label on the Table.
Okay, label on the
And as I mentioned before, the goal of this show is really to start to dismantle those labels so that we can, I don't want to call us lazy, but just so we can dig a little deeper.
Okay.
So I'll read the rules to you, and then we'll play the game. So I'm going to share a scenario with you that is filled with labels.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say filled, but there are various labels in there. Then I'm going to recap and sort of list out the labels.
Okay.
And then I want you to tell me your understanding of the, so I want you to define the label as you think I'm talking about it in the story, and then I'll tell you what I really meant.
Okay.
All right. So in this scenario, I'm suggesting that you hire someone.
Okay.
All right. So I come to you and I say, I know this really awesome woman that you should hire. She is a hard worker and she's so smart. Okay, so let's start with awesome.
Okay.
What do you think I meant by awesome?
Wow, that she's an awesome person. That she has a good personality.
Okay.
If she's awesome, that's I think she's going to have an open and a bright presence about her. If she
Okay.
walks in the room, I'm going to be like, wow.
Right. Well, we're not too far. I meant
Okay.
helpful and friendly.
Okay, wonderful. So
Okay.
friendly.
Hard worker.
Hard worker for me means committed. She's not going to end her day on the clock. That she's going to stay committed beyond what my expectations would probably be.
Sure. Okay, mine was that she never says no.
Oh, okay.
So for
it's
my,
very
in
similar.
this particular situation, which is interesting because if you hired her and she left at 3 o'clock every day, you would say to me, I thought you said she was a hard worker, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, and smart.
That she would think outside of the box. Which probably has nothing to do with smartness
But it's
in
your
the
value
literal
filter.
sense.
Yeah.
But for what I do, because
Sure.
my filter would be based on my need, I guess.
That's right.
I would be like, oh, I hope she thinks outside of the box about the business, and she's not afraid of taking risks,
Right.
things like that, and expressing her ideas, because she'd have to have the confidence to express her ideas, articulate them properly, so that I would consider them at least.
That's right. Okay. I meant that she can think ahead and determine what's needed before you need it.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how much of an example that was. I like these
No, that's
examples
great.
because what I would like to do, and it's funny because my boys now do this, is we're not allowed to label in the house unless you're going to define it.
Okay.
So, for instance, my little one came home and said, so-and-so is such a cheater. I said, well, did he cheat on the spelling test on Monday? And he goes, well, no. And I said, but you said he's a cheater.
Right.
If he's a cheater, then he should cheat all the time.
Right,
Right?
right.
So he said, well, he cheated in football today. I said, that's what you meant to say.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So my goal and hope is that we, particularly when it comes to people that we're watching in the public's eye, that we really stop looking at scenarios and situations and sound bites, and then taking these broad brush labels and putting them all over the place.
Yeah. You know what I love about that in particular for the male children? We aren't encouraged to talk in the same way as men usually. Maybe this generation is different, because I know with my son, I speak with him the same way. I'm like, explain exactly what you mean. Is that what they really said? I question him quite a bit to make him articulate his ideas.
Sure.
But I think that makes us stronger communicators across the board, so that when they become men,
That's right.
they're going to be better for their women.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree. All right, I think we have time for one more
Okay.
now that you have the first.
All right.
Okay. Scenario is, I would never want to work for this guy.
Okay.
He is arrogant, mean, and insecure. So he never wants anyone working with him to know more than he does. Arrogant.
Yeah, that everything centers around him. Whatever his ideas are, you're closed in terms of even being able to express yourself.
Yes, we are spot on that
Okay.
one. That's right. And the interesting thing is, again, what creates your definition is your filter of your values.
Right.
And you and I have similar
Very
values. Mean. I said he was mean.
Curt, condescending, sarcastic. Yeah.
Okay. I said he never asks how I'm doing or cares about his other employees.
Okay. So actually, although I gave you other words back, maybe I should have communicated it differently, but absolutely.
Okay. Insecure.
Needs some kind of verbal expressions back that confirm the position of leadership, boss, on a consistent basis.
Got it. I said he rarely lets me present my ideas because he thinks they'll be better than his.
Wow, yeah, that's clear.
Yeah.
That's very clear, though.
So
yeah.
that's what I think about that. So do you want to tell me a little bit more about being one?
Sure. Being one it's like my life has changed so much over the last few years. So being one means a few things to me. On a personal, extreme personal level, it's about me being single again. What that will mean with me even being open, like you were asking me about being married and in relationships again. It's about being in this familiar place, I guess you'd say, familiar place again. But it actually brought me back to think about all of those that have never been where I've been, and those that are where I am right now.
Right.
And again, wholeness, being okay with being one as yourself, that being the predecessor or the prerequisite to being one with another person. Because if you can be whole within yourself, then you're coming into your community whole, your family. In so many ways, there's a freedom and there's a liberty that I think blesses your family and your community and your relationship with being one. And it really is what all of my music has been about through these years. I had to think about, oh, you sing these love songs, Kenny. What is that about? Every song has really been about being one, whether I'm examining myself and saying, maybe we should try separating because things aren't working, but a lot of the songs were about me reflecting or waiting until tomorrow. I wrote a song about waiting from a relationship I had where I felt like I needed to reach a certain level of financial and commercial success before I could commit in my relationship. And the song was about wanting that and losing the relationship, to being never too busy. And for you, I give a lifetime of stability and forgiveness, and all of those things are what encompass being one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I can't even thank you enough for coming to join me on the premiere show, the premiere of the Monica Koss Show.
I'm very excited for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank vocalist, songwriter, father, and first guest of the Monica Koss Show, those are all factual labels, by the way, Mr. Kenny Lattimore, for joining us for today's conversation on reaching new levels with no labels. I hope today's show has given you greater insight into the man beyond the perception, and that you are inspired to take a deeper look past the labels that we so easily apply without complete understanding. Not just for how you view others, but also the way in which you label and view yourself. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us on Facebook at The Monica Koss Show, on Twitter at Monica Koss Show, or feel free to send us an email to feedback@monicakoss.com. Thank you so much for being with us. Join us for our next segment, where we will have authentic conversations with real estate broker, actress, and former video model, Miss Melissa Ford. I'm your host, Monica Koss, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take the label off the table and dig in.